Next, we're going to have, when I bought my house about 3.5 years ago, I had this dumpster out in front. We remodeled the house pretty extensively. We threw a bunch of stuff in a dumpster, and it said Captain Hook Services on the side. And I never did meet John, but now I know that he's the guy that owns that company. So he's going to get into a different aspect of this. John Torrey with Captain Hook.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. My background is heavy equipment, solid waste, and I'm also a teacher. So my real interest in this came about because we took our grandchildren to the beach and they couldn't get to the water. They were too little. They couldn't make it. So then I figured something's got to be done to do this, and then I realized what they were using and felt that it really wasn't adequate. So if we do this, if we find a way to clean the beaches that makes a difference, one of the things that can happen, I want to go... Oh, I'm sorry. I want to go to... Which one? I want to go to the tail end, in a sense, of what happens if we can do this, what happens at the other end. And this first slide is, I've spoken with Keith Arnold, and if we can do this, that to have an expectation of a 10% increase in tourism for Corpus Christi area, it's about $1.2 billion. So we come up with another $120 million circulating in our community. And when this happens, it's because we haven't had to put any new infrastructure in with sewage or roads or anything like that. The hotels are really operating at around 60% occupancy rate, so there's space for that. So it's an improvement in the business community and improvement in dollars for the community, all because we've given a better environment for the people who are coming. Now, the problem that we have is if we collect this stuff, what do we do with it? And then could you hit the next slide? This is a company, this one here. Can you scroll this up a little bit? Okay, these are scenes.
You can take that mic, please.
Okay, these are scenes that are familiar here to us in Corpus Christi. This area here is on the south side of Australia, and they have a similar problem that we do, except what they're doing is they're making money with their operation. They're converting this stuff to a compost and to a mulch. And I have a couple samples from them, and they're doing something positive with it. This is more of a seagrass. About 4 years ago, I boxed up some of our sargassum and sent it down to those people, and they analyzed it and said they felt that it had enough nutrient value that they were interested in doing something up here in North America. So I want to pass these around. One of these is the big bags of mulch, and the other one is the compost, a finished product. Okay, so could you hit the next Seagull slide? You can find this on the internet. It's Seagull Organic Fertilizers, and they make huge claims on taking the compost and doing two things with it. One, mixing it into the soil, or two, using it like a tea bag and making it into what they call a compost tea, which is people here do in America with regular compost. But they're claiming like 20% gains in production in fruit. It has variety or value across a wide spectrum of plant life. So one of the things that we need to do is to find out what can we do with our stuff. Go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, seaweed compost. Now, because of my solid waste background, I've had some occasion to rub up against operations with compost. If we have this compost and we can collect it in an environmentally benign manner, if we took 1 mile of beach and it was 6 inches deep by 16 feet across, which is not unusual here, that would generate 783 cubic yards. The solid area would be twice that, but there's airspace in between the seaweed, so I cut it in half. That 783 cubic yards, I would predict a 90% moisture loss rate inside it. So you come down with less than 10% of that. Now that gain could be higher. You could end up with more material. 28 cubic yards has a 60% composting reduction. And that would equal about 47 yards. The rule of thumb in making compost tea is that 1 pound of compost added and steeped in 5 gallons of water produces 5 gallons of a liquid foliar spray, which appears to be the best way to apply this. And so at 600 pounds a yard, you're going to generate 28,200 pounds. Let me grab one other thing here. This is a bottle of kelp extract that I picked up at HEB. This bottle is about 40 ounces and it sells for $8. Oh. So we're looking at roughly, let's just use gallons, say $32 a gallon. Okay? So go ahead and slide down a little bit more. That 28,000 pounds comes up with 141,000 gallons of liquid spray. If we sold that for $10 a gallon, now we're talking about $1,147,000 from 1 mile of beach. Is this a possibility or not? It sounds crazy, but nature usually doesn't leave things in such massive quantities that have no value. There's always seems to be some value to it. And I'm encouraged a little bit by A.B. Williams' study that it helped encourage the grass or the plants in the dunes. And so there's something to this. And what it's going to do besides helping clean the beaches is we're going to create jobs. We're going to need a packaging plant. We're going to need a processing place. And so we're going to create a green industry. This could all be part of what I would like to see as a managed harvest. It's not something where we come in and go berserk and start dragging everything off. There's a certain amount of this that we can take and I believe have a benign effect on the environment. So if we do this, what are we going to do with it? Now what I've kind of gathered from the yesterday was that placing this stuff on the dunes the way we do is not particularly a great idea. So if we got to take it to someplace else, and I got a solution for that too, there's something that can be done with it. And if these folks in Australia, they're using shipping containers to just stuff with their compost and they're sending it all over the world. They're making money at it. So is there something that we've missed out on all these years that maybe we should be learning about? Okay, go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so how do we get the seaweed off the beach? Now, this is a machine that I demonstrated for Nueces County, and it actually worked great. If you see behind the front tire, there's a cutting edge down there. And on that cutting edge, we welded some fingers. And so the only thing that touched the sand was those fingers. There wasn't a big blade gathering up a whole bunch of stuff. So the seaweed would ride up the fingers and then hit that elevator. That's those broad things across, and that chain turns, and then it pushes it into the bowl. And we were doing about 100 yards a minute. So for massive quantities, this works great. Now, the drawback with this is that most of these areas, we need to truck it off the beach because taking it up to the dunes isn't the real solution. So we can't have 50-ton machines running up and down the beach and trying to get on a highway or something like that. So this is not the real thing. But it did prove that you can move massive quantities of this in a short amount of time. This is only 15 cubic yards. Go ahead and hit the next slide. All right, this is the machine that I've been working on, and this is a windrow. It's called a force feed loader. And what it does, those mold boards in the front are supposed to help gather a windrowed material, which means that it has been shaped to be fed with this. Now, the problem that I've run into is that with the seaweed, the seaweed does not flow like a granular or a dirt material. Instead, it bunches up. So what happens, it bunches up just ahead of that paddle wheel. Go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, so it bunches up ahead of the paddle wheel and it forms a dam, and the material cannot get back to the paddle wheels. If it would hit the paddle wheels, those paddle wheels are moving 2 cubic feet a second. So it could load a 15-yard dump truck in about a minute and a half if everything was there. They use this, like I said, for granular material and also for snow removal up north. And they expect to move between 10 and 20 cubic yards a minute. All right, go ahead to the next one. So the solution is that for this type of unit is that this particular one here is actually the same thing, but it has a auger on the front of it with like a bulldozer blade, and those are interchangeable. So what I'm doing now is I'm making arrangements to get an auger that I can put on mine and that bulldozer box. And what that will do is that now the leading edge of the machine is the paddle wheel and the auger. So that will feed that to the paddle wheel and then displace it. And then you can have a dump truck backed up to this, and it follows it as it goes down the road. I have another idea about that will come in a little bit later. But I think this is something that could be done. And on these, we would have small fingers down on the bottom so that the machine isn't bulldozing down through the material down into the sand, and we leave the sand behind. So it's something to try, like the gentleman said earlier. I don't think we're going to come up with any one thing that's going to make it work for every particular application. But when we want to move volumes of material, this is the way that I think, the snowblower idea, I actually tried that. I had a 300 horsepower snowblower, and it couldn't throw the material. It could auger it to the paddle wheel, but the paddle wheel couldn't throw it because it basically coagulated it. It clung together and bunched up. So you would have to have an unbelievably powerful snow thrower, which, it can happen, it can be done. But in terms of what we have to do in trying to get this from one place to another, I don't know about loading the truck with that and how much, I've used big snow blowers up north in communities, and they brought in a great big one. They went down the street and they broke out every window in the block. So you got to be careful with what you get into. Go ahead and go to the next thing. So if we do this, if we end up with an enhanced collection program, there's got to be some way to pay for it, and it's going to be above what we're doing now, way above it. Now, anyone who comes here to these beaches, what I'm going to recommend is that we need to look at, for every hotel room, that we charge $1 per room night. So if a family comes down from Houston or from San Antonio or wherever, or our own people, that they can come in and they can walk out the back door and have the specified area that we've decided to generate real attention to, that will be an area that they feel comfortable in putting out their beach chairs and having their kids play in and that kind of stuff. So I think with the machine that was shown before, these smaller ones, maybe we need a fleet of those. That we need to really hit this, and it's like when I was in the Army and the engineers, when we went to a project we just gangstered everything that we had and got it done. And I think maybe we need to look at this instead of piecemeal, trying to get by with just enough. Just enough is good enough. No one's happy here. The merchants aren't happy, the environmentalists aren't happy, the government isn't happy, the taxpayers aren't happy, families coming to the beach aren't happy. So we've got to come up with a new avenue of doing something. So if we do this, and if we can do something with the seaweed itself, that we can turn it into a compost or put it into cosmetics, there's all sorts of stuff that we haven't even explored yet. That those things that we can set up some kind of franchise fee arrangement, and part of those profits off that seaweed sales goes back into the government, and then that's money that the government can use as they see fit. But we have to do something that's not in line with what we're doing now. Okay, another thing that I would recommend is because we would have enough money, those room nights that Keith Arnold was talking about, 6,000 room nights per day that's filled. That's $6,000 a day. That comes out to almost $2.2 million as a fund for the year to be dedicated towards what can we do to fix this beach up the way that it should be done. So the money's there, the possibility, or let's say at least the possibility's there. It takes the will. And I can't believe that anyone who would come to this town and stay in a hotel is going to complain about a $1 fee that guarantees their family a clean beach when they walk out the door. I just went up to San Antonio, my wife and I, for our anniversary. I had $38 on my hotel bill for fees. What have we got here? I'm sure you guys look at your bill today, that when you leave here, it wasn't that much. So another dollar isn't going to hurt anybody coming in paying it, and it's not going to hurt us to enact something that we get this done. So the legislature needs to be part of this. The public will of the politicians needs to be part of this, and the public will of the community needs to be part of this. And the good thing about it is that for each area that this is done, the people in that town don't pay for the beach cleaning. The person who pays for the beach cleaning is the person who comes to visit the beach. And the reason I would like to see the beach sticker abolished is, how many times do you invite someone to your home to come over and visit you, and then you charge them a fee when they walk in the door? Nothing galls anybody more when they go to that beach and then they find out they got somebody coming down in a patrol thing saying, I want $12. We talk about free access to the beach and all this stuff. This would make it so. This would be a winning thing for families, and it would gain us respect throughout the rest of the state, that when you come down here, you are welcome.
Then we'd lose our $2 million.
No, you wouldn't lose the $2 million. You got to, how much does that generate? Maybe it generates $600,000. So what? If you're getting another $2.2 million and we're putting it into a program that works, and for me, I don't understand this, because they're supposed to be between Port A, the county, and the city of Corpus Christi, that there's supposed to be already $2 million being spent. I don't see it. I don't see buying from the beach. For that kind of money, we could have 50 people every day walking the beach and picking it up by hand. Where's the money going? There needs to be reevaluation. To pay for 10 people maybe to go out every day, have a fleet of these small beach cleaners when we need the big ones, and then hire in contract trucking to move the volumes. And then if we turn around on the other end and we have a product we can sell, we need to change this mindset. And this stuff about, I'm going to lose this, stop thinking that. You got to look at the bigger picture further down the road. None of this short-term thinking. That's the way to success for the future. You cannot improve unless you change what you're doing. And we're all here because what we're doing isn't working. Okay, what's the next thing we got? Go to, Go back, that one there. All right. Gentleman was talking about, believe this is an integral part of any compost operation. This is how you get the trash out of the final product. This is called a trommel, and basically it's a large pipe that it has a hopper just the other side of the pipe, and you load it into it, and fine material drops through and goes out the front conveyor, and the larger material comes out the back conveyor. And what happens with a compost operation, you just take that and you put it back into a compost pile until eventually you come to a point, then the only thing that's left is inert material. That's how they process it. That's why it doesn't make any difference when you go down the beach, whether you pick up trash or not. Pick it up. Let's get it off. Because we have a way to remove it. Okay, go to the next slide. All right, this is one of my trucks, and one of the things that I was thinking about doing with that unit was I use this to go out to the landfill so I can take 2 for 1 because we got another hour involved in going to the landfill now. But this could be pulled by that force load, like that force feed loader, and load directly into that dumpster. The other thing is we're going to have trucks for this operation. And maybe we should be looking at buying trucks like this has a dumpster as part of it, that we can leave that dumpster on the beach in a couple of 3 different locations and have those small beach cleaners go through, and then they got some place to run to and load and empty their material into, and then we could haul that to the compost site and take care of it. The other value in having this is at some point we're all going to get whacked by a hurricane. And if we've got these and we have a set of boxes, then on this island we will already have in place some equipment to start dealing with the aftermath and getting this stuff off the island. The other thing that I would recommend is that we look at a big grinder. They have things that'll grind up tree trunks like this. And we need to look at getting something like that. One of the things we're interested in is dune stability. How do we get the dune stable? We need the seaweed on the dunes. Dumping it at the bottom of the dunes don't seem to do much good. However, there are machines that we can take and grind up the seaweed and then put it back into another. Actually, you can put it on one of these things. There's a thing, it's a special tailgate. And on the end of that tailgate is an extra special conveyor belt. And you could actually shoot the dunes and put a blanket from top to bottom. And when that happens, what you're doing is you're providing basically like a snow fence. That when that sand blows across the beach and it starts to come up the dune, it's going to get caught. And after a period of time, it will catch enough and it will blanket that. Then we need to do this with a trial and error system to find out how much is enough. And then when it gets covered so much, then we come back and we put on another blanket of seaweed and put that on there. The first priority should be the stability of the beach. And then after that, maybe we can do some of these enterprise operations. But there's ways to do different things that are equipment intensive, and they cost a lot of money, and it's going to take manpower, but it's going to take something like this to get the job done. We're not going to do it with what we're doing now. So those kinds of things, particularly with throwing the seaweed onto the dunes, is that you've also put a small source of nourishment in the dunes themselves, that when those plants try to creep over, they've got something to dig into and draw from. So, this is only a couple small things that we need to be looking at, and I'm sure more will develop as time goes on. But there's answers here. We can move volumes of material, and we can do something with it that will create funding for what we're doing. So, I guess the close is we need to open up our eyes and let's pull our necks out of the turtle shell and move forward. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
This thrower that you're talking about, how's that being applied now? How's it being used?
They're using it to put like gravel and even cement in basements and stuff. When you lay a pipeline, you have to put a bedding in there. And a lot of places they'll take a backhoe and dip it in. A guy's got to shovel it. This thing, they could actually just kind of back up alongside it and shoot the material into the bed of the pipeline and lay it out the thickness that you want. One of the things I would like to do with it is to take it, and I'm trying to start a construction recycling business in Corpus Christi, to take construction lumber, drywall, cardboard, that kind of stuff, crush it up, make compost out of it, and then for the homes in Corpus Christi, that we take that, and in every new home that we put compost in the yard. And with this machine, we could do that. We could shoot an even layer across the yard. It'd be really quick. The reason I want to put the compost in the yards is because, and this holds for every community in Texas, 50% of water goes to watering grass. And if you put in the compost, you'll reduce that by at least 25%.
How do you get the salt out of the seaweed for making mulch?
What you have to do when you make the mulch is well, actually you want to end up with the compost. Okay. In Australia, they don't have a problem with that because they have enough rainfall, it washes it out naturally. Okay. Here, but they also had something else that they told me that they said needed to be done, is that you need to mix the seaweed compost with other compost, which is why I want the construction material, that you blend those two together. There's an old phrase in recycling: dilution is the solution to pollution. Okay. Yes, sir.
That broadcasting method, is that similar to what they do when they build highway overpasses and stuff and they're going to vegetate it?
Yeah, that's a hydro seeder. That's a hydro seeder. And they also have blowers. The blowers are like $250,000 for a blower setup. The tailgate is $35,000. That's why I'm looking at it.
I've never seen them do it. I've just seen it after it's up there.
Yeah, but a lot of the seed on the highway is hydro mulch, where they have water and the seeds in a tank and they mix the two and shoot it out. And then also with the mulch they're doing, or the compost, they're doing that as well. But I looked into the blowers and they're just so expensive. And then I saw this thing about the tailgate shooter, and you could take an ordinary dump truck and just replace the tailgate and you're in business with it. Yes. The trommel. It has not been tried on the seaweed, but they have one at the landfill. I have one at my yard here in Corpus Christi that we've been using as part of a concrete crushing operation to separate some large rock or dirt from fine rock. Any other questions?
I may be wrong, but I think you'd have to get special permission to remove all that material from the beach.
Well, you're absolutely right. And what we need to do, the legislature needs to be involved in this. Robb County needs to be involved in this. So, is there a real problem in removing it from the beach? Is it going to cause any damage? That's one of the things we need to check out, which we haven't done to date. Now, to me, if we're skimming the top of it and we're finding a way to keep that stuff on the dunes the way that we should and protect that margin between the dunes and the beach, we need to learn some stuff. We need to acquire some new skills. But the idea of you can't do anything, we got to get past that. We need to improve things down here, and the way to improve them is not do the same thing. Sir?
I got an email a couple of weeks ago from a local state representative indicating that there was a legislation passed where hotel motel tax dollars could be used for cleanup.
Okay.
The Ramsey Pass, because we site coordinator at the Lighthouse Lakes, and that's always we're caught between a municipality and a county,
right?
County, who coordinates, and we have an intergovernmental thing, but there should be.
So you think there may be an avenue already getting started?
Yes, and I don't know if it was for shoreline cleanup or because of the beach
Okay.
what motivated that it's in place.
Right. Well, something that I was thinking of is that this year, over the next 2 to 3 months, that we need to get permission from the state or whoever we have to, that we collect a lot of this stuff. The people in Australia thought that I should have around 200 to 300 tons of it. Because you have to have, when you compost, you have to have a mass. The mass, as it decomposes, generates heat, which in turn generates more decomposition and stuff like that. So you have to have a certain mass in order to make it work. So maybe we should be getting permission that we we'd be allowed to take some of this stuff off the beach so we can find out, because it's going to take 6 to 9 months to get it to compost. So we're into next year before we find out if we've got anything. And then if we wait until next year to start to do this, then we're into the next year and into the next year past that. So there's a time frame that we need to be cognizant of and try to act, with some intelligence about what we're doing, but that we act. Okay? Thank you very much.